Oh, hey, we're live.
Hey, what's going on? This is Ian from Vetrepreneur, and I'm hanging out with Griff and Lee from Combat Flip Flops. What's going on, guys?
Not too much, and you?
It's a great day. So I want to go into a little bit about your journey as entrepreneurs, how you started Combat Flip Flops, a little bit about your personal journey. So let's start with your backgrounds. Griff, what'd you do in the military?
I was a artilleryman, so I was a fire support officer, and mainly I supported ground units with big guns, dropping bombs from aircraft and helicopters, and shooting artillery and mortars. And it's a fun job. I really enjoyed all the math and the complications and the teamwork behind it. And I got to work with great guys like Lee. So that's what I did in the Rangers for 3 deployments in Afghanistan and 1 in Iraq.
Nice, Lee. What about you?
I was a 13 Fox. I was a forward observer for 2nd Ranger Battalion. I did 3 tours as a forward observer.
And I was a field artillery battalion S1 for a while, so it's all fun here. So okay, you both get out of the military, and what's the first thing that you did? Did you go right into entrepreneurship and starting Combat Flip Flops, or what'd you do?
I got out and built homes for a large nation home builder. They needed some project managers. And so they, took a couple of junior military officers and NCOs, and they put us on job sites, and we quickly turned around our community. So huge non-compliant, price out of variance, people not know how to lead, and they stuck 4 or 5 of us in a community of homes, and we immediately turned the job sites around and made them profitable. So that was my first experience in business and project management.
Right on. I got out of the military and I went back into the internet industry. Prior to joining the military, I was working in the internet industry. Worked for a couple internet radio stations. I took a 3-year vacation from that after 9/11 when I enlisted in the military. I got back out and went straight back to the internet industry. Worked for a couple .coms, and then we decided to start Combat Flip Flops.
Yeah, so you knew each other in the military. How'd you kind of come about the idea for Combat Flip Flops? And was this like, were you talking about this over chai tea, or how did this kind of come about? And then when did you decide, hey, we should actually do this for real?
Lee and I both, I think we have an entrepreneurial spirit behind us. We both would read business books or talk businesses when we had a lot of downtime on missions or in between missions, and we'd always discuss running a business together. After I'd done home building, I started doing some consulting and some medical work, and I ended up going back to Afghanistan and Africa and the Middle East. And the one thing that I saw there was entrepreneurs, the guys who were hustling on the street corners, selling bootleg DVDs or selling sodas on the corner. They were the guys who were really bringing industry and community there, and they were providing opportunity to their fellow countrymen. And so I kept seeing that over and over again, and the thought kept occurring to me is, we should just do more of this. We should send more microloans and entrepreneurs instead of armored vehicles and airplanes. And on a random trip, I got to take a tour of a combat boot factory in Afghanistan employing hundreds of people. And it was literally the American dream. It's what we had worked so hard to provide, that type of opportunity. And in that factory, on this table was a combat boot sole with a flip-flop thong punched through it. And it was so ugly and cool, I thought Americans would buy it. And I called Lee, and we registered the domain name, and it started from there.
So were you thinking, hey, I can be the executive type role or the operations role, and then Lee can be the tech guy, or did you not really know at that point?
At that time, we knew we had certain skill sets. I can tell the story, I can lead, I can meet with folks. Lee is great at building website design, and he's got a really cool story behind it. The one thing we were lacking was design, and so the 3 of us, the 3 co-founders, is Lee, my brother Andy, and myself. And my brother Andy, he's a fantastic designer and operations guy. Never served a day in the military, but he liked our mission. He liked what we were doing. He liked the message behind it. And so the 3 of us started the company, and we all pretty had clear roles. Like, I would go out and find money and do sales. Andy would manage the production, and Lee would do tech.
Yeah, so at this point, did you ever think, hey, we should make this a nonprofit, or did you think the whole time it's like, this is something that we we feel very strongly about should be an economic kind of stimulus package to these areas.
Dropped the headset there. Dropped it again, twice. Nonprofits in our book were kind of non-sustainable. You know, I'd worked with some nonprofits in the past, and I absolutely hate asking for money. I don't like do it. I think Lee and I are both of the mentality that we'd rather just go out and make it. And if you have a viable, sustainable business that it's viable and sustainable, and you don't need to ask for money, you can just make more of it. So that our kind of mindset from there was, we're not going to be a nonprofit. We're going to use our profits to donate to other philanthropic causes. But as far as us, we're decent at running businesses, and we just wanted to be able to create that opportunity for other businesses to look at us and say, hey, it is profitable to be able to go to these countries and do business. You know, we're going to follow these guys' lead. You know, Rangers lead the way. You know, we just took that mentality in business, and we started from there.
So Lee, as you're getting out and you're working back kind of with some tech companies and all that, are you thinking about, hey, I could keep going down this road which is, pretty profitable working in tech, or help start this business and launch this? Like, what was that pull feel like to either go into entrepreneurship, which is a lot less certain, or kind of take the a little bit of a more certain paycheck?
It was the stability of a 9-to-5 of punching a clock, whatever you want to call it. As having a family, that was always kind of a big thing, is stay stable for my family. But in my heart, it was I don't want to work for somebody else. I don't want to answer to somebody else. I want to answer. It's my actions that are going to steer revenue for our company. Same thing with Griffin. I served with Griff. I trust him with my life. We can figure things out together. Like you said, we all had our skill sets. When we put them together, we were able to build this company from nothing and start generating revenue. That, to me, that was more appealing than punching a clock. I mean, I'm sure it is for everybody. By no means is it easy. We've definitely struggled. We've definitely, in the beginning, we hurt for cash, but we just kept at it. Right? We failed fast. We recovered. We pivoted. We made the business profitable. And we continue to grow the business. And that's, for me, that grind that we're on. Griff, me, and Andy. I wouldn't trade that for a 9-to-5. Never. I'd never trade it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at kind of the veteran entrepreneurs that are out there now, and there's so many young leaders that were given enormous amounts of responsibility, both in combat and in garrison, where you have these folks that are used to working autonomously, even though they're in like the Green Machine or whatever section of the military. I mean, did you kind of feel that, where it's like, hey, I'm so used to working autonomously that I don't want to work for a large organization, even though you work for one of the biggest in the world?
I think so. I mean, I think for me, working for a big machine, leaving the military. So the hardest part for me when I transitioned, when I got in the military and working for the big machine, right? The hardest part was seeing the lack of accountability, right? That really discouraged me. Coming from the Ranger Regiment, like, there's no gray line, right? There's no gray area. It's either black or white, yes or no, stop or go. And working for these big companies, you get a lot of gray area. You work with people that aren't held accountable for their actions, and nobody really cares, because at the end of the day, they still get their check, and they carry on. And a lot of times when there's dead weight, they're not quick to fire. They'll sit there and they got to play the HR game, and they got to be politically correct and all of that. And the great thing about working with my Ranger brother, we hold each other accountable for everything, and we're very blunt about things. And recently Griff was invited to speak at a conference, at a veteran conference, and when we tell these civilian entrepreneurs that like, hey, either you're on mission or you're not, either you're on the boat or get off, right? Like, it's very simple for us. We've worked that way in the Ranger Regiment. We get out, we apply those principles to business, and as brutally honest as we might be, it keeps the business on track, right? And you don't get that in the civilian world. You don't. I mean, Griff's heard me complain about. He heard me complain about it so much. You know, oh, this guy is. You know, this person is just a. You know, they're just. You know, burning money for a big company, and they don't really care. They're not getting a return on their cash, and it's just a waste. And you know, they gotta coddle the person because they're scared of a lawsuit, or they're scared of, you know, one thing or another. But again, you know, we fall back to our military roots, and Griff and I are just like, hey, this is broken. We got to fix it. What's the problem? What's the solution? There's no, you know, there's no dwelling on the issue. There's no, you know, oh, it's brutally honest, brutally like, hey, let's fix this, right? We're not going to dwell on it. So I think for me, that's what's always appealed to me about, you know, about this company.
Yeah, I think entrepreneurship for us, both Lee and I, we like to move at a rapid pace. And it's in all the civilian organizations we work for, we try to push limits in every single place that we have been at. And you always run into a ceiling or a stop point, or you can't because of X, or somebody just didn't feel comfortable with it, where, you know, we're willing to take that responsibility. Like, if I plan something and it fails, I will own every single bit of that, but at least let me have that opportunity to fail. And I think just in all the businesses that we ran, you know, we're always running into that problem. When we start running our own, hey, we're fully responsible for the actions that we take, which means we share in all of the failures, but we also share in all of the successes. And over time, you know, those failures are going to go away and those successes are going to increase. And that's really been the benefit for us, is really saying, hey, we've been working super hard, we're being effective, and we're starting to see the positive gains come through. And for people, you know, with that mindset, all you want to do is you just want to turn up the volume on the successes and keep going, and there's no limit to it, which is kind of our mindset. Is you're in civilian jobs or working for somebody else, you're always limited on how successful you can be, versus if you're running an entrepreneurship venture, you're the only limit there is. That's it.
Yeah, so talk about some of those setbacks a little bit. I want to know, like, what were the areas that as an entrepreneur you felt you were the most naive about, or you had the biggest gap in your knowledge, or like, you know, hey, we got bogged down in legal issues and it was a big nightmare. I mean, talk about some of those things that weren't that great, or that areas where you said, hey, I wish I had a little bit more knowledge on blank.
I think for us, the knowledge would have started around like business financials. Everybody's going to talk to you about putting together this ridiculous 40-page business plan and market share and X and this and that, but really when it comes down to it, it's like you're doing a hit on a house. You're not saying, oh, somebody's going to go hit that door. It's like, you, Jones, you've got the breach. You know, you, Smith, you're covering him when he's on the breach. You know, you're going to pull rear security, and you name people by name, and they go through and they get it done. And I think you can immediately transfer that to a P&L statement. I've seen so many profit and loss statements and business plans. When you look at it and you go, okay, who is going to handle the marketing? What's their name? And how are they going to manage that spend? And then people look at you glassy-eyed. Every line on your profit and loss statement has a person doing some sort of action tied to it. And I wish we would have been more in tune with that earlier on in our business. But again, we failed quickly. We saw what happens when you lose money, and then we quickly adjusted and then tied the responsibilities on that statement back to a person within the organization and drove forward. And that was been one of the better things that's ever happened to us as a company as we did that. And fortunately, we found a good mentor who's a former Ranger, a successful business owner, and taught us the merits of that.
That's a really good message. You know, every line on the P&L has a person attached to it, and I think that's a classic kind of mission planning thing where it's like, you know who leads each effort, and you know, there's a person accountable for that. It's a really good piece, and it's something that I think we're ingrained with, and sometimes when we step out in the civilian world, we don't even realize that we're doing it. Mm-hmm. So have you seen? You have such a creative idea. Business Not Bullets is extremely creative. You have products that are very unique, despite being, you know, flip-flops is not exactly, you know, the most technological innovation here, but the creativity kind of bleeds through in everything that you do. Have you seen folks say, like, how did how did you get so innovative, or how did you get so creative? Have you kind of seen any pushback on that?
Lee, you take this one.
There's been it's not pushback. It's more just like we get that deer in the headlights look, and it's more like, you're doing what? You're doing what? Why? People just don't get it, right? We're flip-flops are a product, are one of our products. Obviously, a flip-flop is a political term. And if you look at it, it's taking a 180-degree stance on something, right? So it's kind of misleading, the name. You would think we'd be stuck in one category of product, but if you think about it a little bit further, that's why we did it. We named ourselves Combat Flip-Flops. It's we're taking a 180-degree stance on something, right? We're fighting wars with trade, right?
Yep.
Business, not bullets.
Well, so how many people that you talk to or that you pitch to, whether it's in the venture community or otherwise, that were like, you guys are crazy. Not only is this model crazy, but you two both are actually crazy.
Yeah, we're certifiable. That is guaranteed.
What is it great? 1 out of 2? 1 out of 2? So
yeah,
1 out of 2. They were crazy. Yeah. That was it's definitely been something else. I mean, even the Afghans, like early on, we met with some Afghans in LA, right? Remember they owned an Afghan rug, a really super high-end Afghan rug shop. And some of these rugs took years to make. I mean, we sat and had chai on like this $4 million Afghan rug, and it was ginormous. And he was all stoked, and he was like, "You're making these in Afghanistan?" He was really proud, right? He was really proud, and then he looked at us and he's like, "Are you sure this is gonna work? Are you really?" I mean, that was, and he was from the country, and he wasn't even sure it was gonna work. None of us were sure it was gonna work, but we knew we were gonna get it to work, right?
Well, I saw a Venn diagram the other day that was like, it was a circle that said, "This is a bad idea," and then another circle that said, "This is a good idea," and where they intersected was business, right? And I think that's at the end of the day, like you have to push the needle in some way, and you guys obviously have. So what was I gotta ask? What was Shark Tank like? How was that experience? To kind of be there.
It was kind of weird. So a big thing for us is kind of back to the P&L statement and whether the idea works or not is the more people that hear about us, the more people that go to our website, and the more people that convert, the more money that you make, the more people you employ, the more you're able to donate to put little girls in school. It's a linear progression, right? So the more media we get in front of that hear our story, people go, wow, this is kind of cool, and they go to our website and they research about what we do, who we are, and who we try to help. They agree with that and they buy our products, right? And that adds directly to the bottom line. And so we've really taken an aggressive stance on marketing and PR as a small company. We think we have a cool story and people like hearing it. And so we had a couple beers with a guy in a bar in LA, and he ended up writing this fantastic article on Gizmodo, which generated a huge, like just tons of traffic to our website, crashed our website for days. And one of the producers from Shark Tank read the article and called us, right? And it's like somebody calling you and saying, "Hey, I got the golden ticket to Willy Wonka's factory. Would you like to come?" And we didn't even know like if we wanted to go on or not. So he sends us the application packet, and we fill it out as bluntly as humanly possible. And he calls us back. He's like, "Oh, this is great." And so it was actually starting to become real. And right in the middle of our peak selling season, we dropped everything that we were doing and kind of we ran dark for a couple months, and we just trained and we trained and we trained to show up. I mean, it's the big show. You're on the biggest family show in America, 10 million viewers, going with some of the leading entrepreneurs in the country, and we had to go out and represent our community and our mission well, and we put everything we had into it, and we went out and got it, and it was great. And when we showed up on stage, we were ready to go, and we went toe-to-toe for an hour and 45 minutes with some of our nation's leading entrepreneurs, and they agreed with what we were doing. They liked our mission, they liked our style, and they liked our our knowledge of our own business, and they decided to invest in us. And since that, we're on track for 500% growth this year.
That is awesome. So
Fantastic.
did you have funding before that? I mean, how much did you have, like a a seed round, or what? I mean, or was this bootstrapped from the jump?
We started out by virtually selling everything that we owned and working day jobs in order to make this happen, to buy prototypes and tools. And as you get through the down times, because we had never ran a business before, bunch of bumps in production, so we could never really get our cash flow to even out. So it was a cash business all the way until January 2015, in which we took on a small venture partner who was also a veteran entrepreneur, former Ranger from the early 80s, and he saw what we were doing, took us underneath his wing, straightened out all of our finances and our books, and it enabled us to really grow as a company. And we took a small amount of cash, and we immediately did a 100% jump in our company within 5 months. And that's right when Shark Tank hit, and we just continued on that path. And so every bit of help that somebody's given us, we've taken and we've turned it into more. So that's how we did it. And so we just have a small group of investors in the company, which now includes the sharks, and we're off to the races. It's just turning the volume up to 11 and snapping the knob off now. So as we like to say in the company.
Yeah, I love, that's awesome. So what's next? I mean, are we going beyond consumer goods? What are the kind of next phases for the future? It seems like there's literally a whole world of potential.
So next, we're always looking for other areas that are affected by conflict, and we're always looking for new initiatives to set up. Obviously, since we just hit our growth spurt in February, thanks to the Shark Tank airing, we're looking at setting up a new initiative in Africa and a couple other places. And these are obviously going to be tied into some kind of I'm tongue-tied, sorry. 1 cup of coffee. They're going to be tied into some cause out there. More than likely, it's disarming or disposal of weapons that were used in Africa. So that's next for us. There's some other educational initiatives that we're looking at. Some very cool stuff that we're getting into with a technology company that's. It's what is their bungalow do, Griff?
It's essentially, it's called a digi-truck, so you can put a sustainable school anywhere on this planet, solar-powered, battery backup, computers, and cell phone networks, and so you can literally take best-in-class education and put it in the worst place on the planet. We work hard for our money. We want everything we do to be maximum effort, maximum effectiveness. And if we choose to not put best-in-class education or best-in-class practices with any of our philanthropic initiatives, it's our fault. So as much as we hammer down on our own profit and loss statement and our own business, we work to maximize our dollars with our philanthropic initiatives as well. So the big thing for us is developing nation education, because we feel that if you educate people in developing nations, then they won't be exploited by radical groups or large corporations anymore.
That's awesome. I love it, guys. You can find them on Shark Tank Inc., History Channel, Gizmodo, Foreign Policy, pretty much everywhere. I'm definitely having you guys back soon, because I want to check in here and hear about all the different things you're doing. So I appreciate you taking the time off. Anything else?
Yeah, follow us on Facebook, Combat Flip Flops, Twitter, Combat Flip Flops, Instagram, Combat Flip Flops, SoundCloud, Combat Flip Flops. It's all at Combat Flip Flops.
And I'm going to go buy some flip-flops after this, so I think everybody should too. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy. Bye.